I can't do what I need to do because I got these women on my mind. And I keep lusting and I have to have them, sleep with them, fornicate with them. So therefore I can't do what God needs me to do. Instead of breaking up with these women, I let these women get me killed. I'm just tying this video in with the two I just did on when I was talking about on the man's side and on the woman's side, how we use our fleshly bodies in the wrong way and how we disrespect God and how we lose focus on what God needs us to do. So I want to talk about my boy Samson for a minute. And we all know the story on Samson and Delilah. But first of all, let's look at Samson. Who was Samson? Samson was a judge of Israel, and he was very strong because God gave him great power. But sometimes he was foolish and made bad decisions. See, because Samson didn't always obey God, and he didn't really get to do what he needed to do because of his disobedience. Now we know that Samson loved women also. He couldn't even help the Israelites escape from them enemies, which was the Philistines, or some might say the Philistines. Now to bring you where I'm at, you're going to have to read chapter 14 and 15, which 14 is all about Samson marrying the Philistine woman, or Philistine, some might say. And then chapter 15 will be Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. Now, let's move on to 16. And what we see here is that, I want to say Solomon, excuse me, y'all, because Solomon had to follow the women also, too, didn't he? It seemed like all these men had a problem with these women. Now, when you read chapter 14 and 15 and come up to where I am, now let's get into this. And it says, verse 1, let me get my screen ready. All right. Then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot and went into her. Now, harlot, or some might say prostitute. Now we see just off this first verse, he's getting ready to go with a prostitute, laying up, sleeping around. No, he don't have no business doing this. So you know, men, anytime we get to losing focus on God because the fleshly body of a fine woman, we lose focus, we get off track, and God plays no part of sin. But we're going to learn here also that God he still have his hands on us regardless. And 2 says, and it was told the Gazites saying, Samson is come hither, and they compassed him in and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city and were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning when it is day, we shall kill him. We're going to kill him. See, first of all, they were enemies. The Philistines, and they were enemies. See, Samson was supposed to help them escape these Philistines. I'm talking about the Israelites escaping their enemies. And see, when you playing around with God, God will use your enemies up against you very hard and will have them winning. See, people, that's why I be telling folks, you don't play with God. 3 says, and Samson laid till midnight and rose at midnight and took the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders and carried them up to the top of an hill that is before Hebron. How in the world is this man so strong and he's able to carry the gate and all this on his shoulders? Oh man, see, God gave Samson so much power, but he seemed like he forgot about his power. And his power wasn't in her really. His power was his relationship with God. Verse 4 says, and it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. Now he ain't learned from the last woman he was with. Anytime God got you on a task, you need to forget about these women that's bringing you down. But same thing happened to Solomon. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines, so he had 1,000 women, and them women wound up turning him away from God because they was messed up with that idolatry and everything. So 5 says, and the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto her, entice him and see where his great strength lieth. That means we may prevail against him, that we might bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. Now we see how they used Delilah to try to get at Samson. Now, do Delilah love Samson? No. Delilah's just in love with the money. Don't that tie in with nowadays, y'all? Kanye West did that song, said, I ain't saying she's a gold digger. And you look at a gold digger, you look at prostitution nowadays, it's all about the love of money, which is the root of all evil. So they said we would give her, let me back that back up, 1,100 pieces of silver, which almost is like 140 pounds of silver. So they going to pay her off pretty well. And then the next verse says, which is 6, and Delilah said to Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lied, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. See, we see already she don't love him. She's setting him up to get him killed. All he got to do is tell her where his strength lies at. How a woman can use those strongness and make you very weak. And Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 green withs, they would never dry, then shall I be weak and be as another man. And then 8 says, then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. In other words, she goes back and do what Samson has told him, not knowing that Samson just really lied to her. And then 9 says, now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And he said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the wits, as a thread of law is broken, which toucheth the fire. So his strength was not known. So in other words, when he lied to Delilah, they try to do what Delilah has told them about Samson's weakness, and they find out that Samson has lied, because Samson, he went through that without nothing, didn't he? We see that couldn't hold him down still. And then here go 18. And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherever thou mightest be bound. Now here she goes, steady nagging at him again about where his strength is, because Samson done made a fool out of her because he told her a lie. And then 11 says, and he said unto her, if thou bind me fast with new ropes, they never were occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man. See, Samson had way more power than a regular man. We see that right here. Now he lies to her again. And 12 says, Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith. In other words, she have done what he said again. And then the Philistines, she says, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And they were liars and wait abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off his arms like a thread. So here it is the second time he lies. And he go through that and he breaks it off and nothing happened to Samson. And then 13 says, and Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast marked me and told me lies. Tell me whether thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web. Now we see here that this woman do not love him, period. First of all, why you keep trying to get at me, asking me all these questions? And strong as he is, but to be so strong, he just plump dumb in his mind, ain't it, people? But this is the power of women. And how women can take your mind off of your goal if you ain't careful. And she fastened it with the pin and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awakened out of his sleep and went away with the pin of the beam and went the web. And then 15 says, and she said unto him, how can thou say I love thee when thine heart is not with me? Now thou hast mocked me these 3 times and hast not told me within thy great strength lied. In other words, she's starting to put that woman on him. Now you know how y'all women can do. Why hast thou marked me? This is the 3rd time, Samson. You have lied to me and made me look like a fool. You don't love me. And really, real talk, she don't love him. She just after that money. She don't care if this man live or die. And 16 says, and it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death. So in other words, she started sweet talking him, putting them words on him, sounding all sexy. Samson already was weak in the flesh, so she knew how to get at him. And 17 says that he told her all his heart and said unto her, thou had not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. Now right here, he finally tells Delilah the truth. He finally tells her the truth. If his head be shaved with a razor, he has never been shaved. Now he confesses and tells her, if they move his hair away, shave him, then his strength goes away. And then here go 18 says, and when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called him for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up this once, for he has showed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought her money in her hand. She was all about the money. She was all about the money. Now she done gave him up. And 19 says, and she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she calls him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. Now he done got weak because he done told his little secret on this her. But once again, if you look at this closely, his strength wasn't in this her. It was his relationship with God, and we're going to see why. Now let's move on. And 20 says, and she said, the Philistines be upon thee. And he woke up out his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before and shake myself. And he wished not that the Lord was departed from him. Uh-oh. Now we see that the Lord done turned away from Samson because of Samson's disobedience, because of his sin. Now God got to show you, you're going to be so big and bad, let me leave you on your own for a minute so you can really see how bad you are. You ain't listening at me no way, Samson. 21 says, but the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with the letters of brass, and he did not grind in his prison house. In other words, they done put Samson's eyes out. They done put his eyes up, got his eyes out. Oh, man. And 22 says, howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after it was shaved. Now we see that his hair started growing back again. Man, isn't God amazing? And then 23 says, then the lords of the Philistines gathered them together to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their God, and to rejoice, for they said, our God hath delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hand. See, if Samson would have stayed focused on what he needed to do, God would have just, oh man, he could have stayed on his task and they could have got past their enemies. But now they have gotten the best of Samson. And 24 says, and when the people saw him, they praised their God, for their God had delivered him into the hand of our enemy and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. And remember, Samson had that jawbone, and he destroyed about 1,000 of them. Samson killed a lot of folks. And it came to pass when their hearts were married that they said, call for Samson that he make us sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. And they sat between the pillars. Look at the clock for a minute. Okay, we're doing good. And Samson into the lad that held him by hand, suffer me that I may feel the pillars upon the house, standing that I may lean upon them. Notice how they use a little boy. Now Samson can't see, but he need to be able to feel these pillars. See, right here now we see that he got to get even with his enemies, these Philistines, because they done put his eyes out now. Now he want his revenge. And we know the Lord say, vengeance is mine. But we see how Samson is right here. And Samson into the land of the hand, suffer me that I may feel the pillars. Okay, I just read that one. Let me move to 27. I'm sorry. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and they were upon the roof, about 3,000 men and women that beheld while Samson made sport. So we can see all these people there. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me. I pray only this once, O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for what they have done to my 2 eyes. 29 says, and Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which it was borne up, of the one with the right hand, and of the other with his left. And Samson said, Lord, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than that which he slew in his whole entire life. So right here, he kills everybody. Then his brother and all the house of the father came down and took him and brought him up, and they buried him between Zorah and Esther in the Barringer's place of Manor his father, and he judged Israel 20 years. Now he got his revenge, did it? Now some gonna say, did Samson commit suicide? Or did God allow him to do that? I don't understand this, JT. That's y'all homework and y'all answer. And Pop, I know you already know the answer. Many man also. Did God let Samson commit suicide and kill everybody else? What was the point of all this? Think about it, people. When you lose focus on God's business, you have slipped. But look at how God still honored his last request, his prayer. Even though God went away from Samson for a while, but he came back. So did Samson really commit suicide? God bless you.